I don't think y'all understand how excited I get when I play these games. I mean, the fact that I get to play Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton and create my own type of feel, my own type of match, my own type of story in the ring, that makes me, as a wrestling fan, really, really excited. As a passionate wrestling fan, it makes me even more excited because I just remember the nostalgia of growing up and watching Cody Rhodes be groomed and mentored by Randy Orton in the faction that was called Legacy, which featured a slur of talent, which was Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase, and Cody Rhodes, which were second and third generation superstars. The third generation superstar being Randy Orton because his father and his grandfather wrestled, so he's a third generation. But Cody and Ted DiBiase, those are two second generation superstars that were in the business, following the tracks of their fathers. And, it was so interesting just watching that whole story play out when we were watching what most people would say prime Randy Orton, right? Bald Randy Orton, the one that, he's just going to punt that head off any moment in time. But anyway, just going back to those times and seeing where Cody was within the midst of that segment, that experience, and that faction. And then, moving forward, he's going throughout his career, and now he's at the point where we're viewing Cody Rhodes as the same caliber of superstar as a Randy Orton, who's able to carry the company, put butts in seats, and actually put on really great matches and play a great character that really matches and correlates with who he is as a person. And that's something that I definitely feel with Cody as he's doing what he's doing in the wrestling industry. Is I feel as if Cody is actually, playing himself. I don't feel like Cody is actually playing the character. Sometimes it does feel a little generic as far as like the face value goes, like, he's saying all the right words, he's the good guy, he's trying to really get the crowd hype and, into the feel of his character as a babyface. But outside of just the nuances of what they do to get the crowd engaged and things like that, I do feel at the core of everything, Cody's playing himself, and this is why we see Cody have the level of success that Cody is actually having right now within the industry. So, it's pretty interesting to see these two clashing because at the end of the day, there was a time where Randy Orton was that guy, right? And Randy Orton's still that guy and forever will be that guy, right? But there was a time where Randy was the guy in the company, right? And then you had Cody, who was kind of like a jobber, a lackey, somebody to just clean up, all of Randy's business, instead of Randy having to do it himself. Cody was just that guy that was following in the tracks of Randy Orton, right? So now you see two people who, are on the same level clashing with each other. And, it's just an exciting feel overall. It's stories like the story right now between Randy Orton and Cody that we're seeing on television right now. It's stories like this that really bring me in as a older fan, that has history watching these characters over the years. It's something that really intrigues me, something that, really gets me excited to see, what can they create together. As far as their WrestleMania match that they had, I do feel like it under-delivered a little bit. I'm not going to lie, for what it was supposed to be, it was supposed to be bigger. It just wasn't supposed to be, it just wasn't supposed to be what it was. That's all I can really say is it was supposed to feel bigger. It was supposed to be bigger. And with Pat McAfee's involvement and all of that and Jelly Roll and X, Y, and Z, I feel like it really took away from, the beauty of their rich history that they actually have and the stories that they could have told. Even if it, meant bringing in Ted DiBiase, I think that would have been a better fit for their story than bringing in someone like Pat McAfee, who really had nothing to do with their history or their story at all. Just more so had something to do with trying to help sell tickets. And this is where, I think sometimes WWE obviously, loses some of their audience or, upset some of their fans, is when you take something that you've built over the course of time that is very valuable and then you water it down and taint it by, thinking selfishly about, money and business and, things like that, opposed to thinking about what the consumer who's kept this business afloat and, actually cares about the characters and are invested in the characters. When you take away what they really want and what they really loved about the characters or the story, and you put other people and other things into the midst of that and you taint it, it can really upset a lot of people and throw a lot of people off, so it's one of those things where it's like right now what we're seeing post WrestleMania is another extension of this heated rivalry between Randy Orton and Cody, and I do feel like we're getting a little bit more. And the reason why I feel like we're getting a little bit more is because we're getting a little bit more out of Cody Rhodes specifically. I feel like Cody right now has an edge to him, and he's been having this edge brewing within him for quite a while now. I think since dealing with the bloodline as heavily as he was and understanding what he had to tap into to be able to overcome the bloodline, I think that really did something to Cody and really changed the feel of his character. Even his feud with Drew McIntyre, I feel like Drew McIntyre really brought out some of the best in Cody Rhodes, and that's another thing, is that I love how Drew McIntyre can do that with any and everybody, and I personally feel like he's slept on in that regard. Is that a lot of people overlook how special Drew is because, unfortunately, just like any other sport or any form of entertainment out there, there's always going to be multiple people who are, top dogs in the industry. And unfortunately for Drew, he's in an era of wrestling where you have a Roman Reigns and you have a Seth Rollins. You have all of these different type of top guys like Brock Lesnar. John Cena was in there during that time. AJ Styles. Like, you just have so many top dudes who do certain things a little bit better than Drew, where he kind of gets a little pushed to the side and not recognized for how special of a talent and of a character he truly is. And, I feel like he really brought out some of the best work in Cody Rhodes alongside with Kevin Owens, right? So it's like you have Cody in this phase of his career and, things like that, where now we're getting a more edgier feel to him. Now he's, becoming more, I don't want to say necessarily a heel because he's not fully yet there. However, he's becoming more of a character that's operating more out of a place of ego, I would say. Like, he knows himself. He knows what he's capable of. He knows he's QB1. He knows he's the face of the company. He knows he's easy to find and hard to beat, as he says. Like, he knows this, and he's embracing the heat of it all. Like, I know people don't like that I'm the one. I know people don't like that they always got to see Cody Rhodes' face. I know people don't like that now I'm like John Cena, who I looked up to. I'm always in the title match. I'm always in the main event. I'm always beating this guy and that guy. I know people hate to see me in the same way that they seen Cena for years, but unfortunately, some things just never change. And Cody is that one thing in this era of wrestling that never changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's exactly what the company wants and the company needs in order to keep a certain appeal and, a certain thing going within, connecting with their audience, and being marketable. So, I just find it, very interesting how we go from, the times where Cody was on the come up, working alongside with Randy Orton and kind of being, an underutilized talent, to now being the main guy, and Cody, is kind of in the position where, Randy has to kind of chase him down in a way. Randy kind of needs Cody at this moment to re-solidify, what made him great in the first place, right? What made him dangerous, what made him feared, what made him, the top guy in the business. Randy right now is kind of feeding off of Cody's, Cody's popularity right now, Cody's new and improved attitude right now, Cody's stature and status within the wrestling business and wrestling industry. So, I just think it's dope to see as a fan, these characters evolving and becoming more and, just doing what they're doing. And, I'll leave you with this. I do feel like their match in real life, not the match I had here on this gameplay that we did see, but in real life, I feel like the next match that they have is actually going to be a solid match. They just need to put on dangerous spots. Like, they need to put on spots where it's like, it's extreme. Kind of like the match that Cody had with Kevin Owens, at Saturday night's main event. That was a match where we really seen Cody tap into that edgier side of himself, where, that spot where they were on the announce table and he put Kevin Owens through the ladder, like, that spot was hidden on something, you know what I'm saying? Or the spot where Kevin Owens did his top rope, suplex into the ladder, on Cody. It's like, they need that type of feel. Even the feel of, both of them, like Randy and Cody, standing on top of the announce table, having their opponent laying down on the steel steps and hitting them with a chair. Like, they need dangerous, like, violent spots like that in order for this to feel important. It can't just be a technical wrestling match. It can't just be, just something of that nature. It needs spots like that. It also needs like some drawbacks of Cody hitting Randy with a RKO, Randy hitting Cody with a crossroads, Randy going for the punt and being intercepted with maybe a RKO. Like, it needs spots like that where it changes the feel and the dynamic of their rivalry and their match. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this gameplay video that, I'm showing, but also I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of my commentary around, the feud of Randy Orton and Cody. And I want you guys to let me know in the comment section, who do you think's going to win this feud between the two? Do you think Cody Rhodes is going to turn heel sometime soon? And how long do you think we got left until Randy Orton decides to call it a career? Because we have seen a lot of our favorite wrestlers from back then retiring. We got Brock Lesnar, he's retired. John Cena's retired. AJ Styles retired. So we've got a lot of superstars that came up around the same time in the same era retiring now. How long do we have left to really enjoy and experience the era and the age of the Viper, Randy Orton? So leave your comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed this video, follow me for more at I Within the Game. And until next time, keep creating.